Good evening, everyone. We're connecting halfway across the world by the miracle of modern technology. Because I'm in England, and I don't know where the rest of you are, but to me, that's halfway around the world. And here it's about 8 o'clock at night. So it's always the time difference and all of that. I'm always saying this proves that time really doesn't exist. Because everywhere we go, we're traveling all over the world constantly, and everywhere we go, it's either tomorrow or yesterday or the morning or the evening. You can't keep up with time anyway. And that's what we've been told many times, that time is an illusion. The ETs have said man is probably the only species in the universe who has found a way to measure something that does not exist. So leave it to us to do something like that. But anyway, when I'm doing this, I never know where I am. So I guess we were able to work it out to the right time wherever you guys are anyhow. Okay, I think most of you know who I am. I'm a hypnotherapist, but I began hypnotherapy over 45 years ago when nobody was doing hypnosis for anything like this. When I started in the 1960s, it was all about habits and lose weight and relaxation. So when I got into reincarnation, I was one of the first to do it back when no one was doing it. So I've come a long way, and I've seen the evolution that has been happening. Because it took me 9 years to get my first book published, because nobody understood what reincarnation was. You younger people got to remember there was no such thing as metaphysics. There was no such thing as New Age. The majority of the Western world didn't even know what reincarnation was. So I was into an unknown field, but I'd found out so much information by accident, if anything is ever an accident, that I wanted to write about what I discovered, and I wanted to pursue it. So I wrote the books, but we couldn't get them published. Nobody understood what I was talking about. Past lives? What do you mean? And so I had to wait for the rest of the world to catch up with me, and that took 9 years. And even then, from the 70s and the 80s, I've seen how things have evolved. Now, in the last 10, 15 years, I've seen a huge evolvement in the way people are thinking and looking at this. Because back then, you didn't know about mediums, you didn't know about channeling, none of this. And now, during the last 10 years anyway, when I've been doing my lectures, and we fill the auditoriums, there's a whole lot of people in the audience will say, "We just found you. We didn't know anything about you till about a week ago." And to me, that seems so strange, because I haven't been hiding. I've been doing this work a long time. And my 18 books, the first ones were been out for over 30 years. So I haven't been hiding. But what I found it is the internet generation. A lot of the young people are just now discovering metaphysics and the strange and the unusual and the paranormal, where before, the older generations were just brainwashed into believing it didn't exist, or work of the devil or something like that. Well, now what I can see is that the younger generation are accepting this very quickly. And that's good. That shows the involvement that we're into. Things are moving so fast. And your psychic abilities are returning. The veil is thinning. And as the veil thins, people are discovering more and more of their own abilities. And this is what's coming out. So to me, I think it's a very remarkable time to be alive as we watch all of the changes that are happening now in the way people are thinking, how they're accepting these things. It comes very easy to the younger generation. Look at what we're doing now. We're talking where we used to be, you couldn't do this. When I was younger, they kept saying, "Oh, one day we're going to have a telephone where you can see the person you're talking to." And it seemed like, oh yeah, that's very way off. I don't think it'll ever happen. But now look what we're doing. The technology has advanced so much, so the people's thinking is advancing. We're moving at a very rapid pace. But my work has evolved also. So I had to devise my own method of hypnosis, because when I started out, there was nothing like this. So I devised my own technique that I've now been teaching all over the world for the last 20 years. And we're reaching people everywhere, because the method that I devised has to do with speaking with the greatest power in the universe. This power knows the answers to everything, and it can also do healing instantaneously. And that's what I'm teaching. I'm focusing more on the healing than anything else, because we're able to have instant healing just that quickly. And we're training doctors, we're training people all over the world. We travel all the countries of the world, and this is being accepted now. It used to be thought of as the medicine of the future. Now they're saying this is the medicine of now, because we're teaching people how to use their own minds to heal their bodies. So to me, that's a very important thing that I've been on. But and all through my career, in all the 18 books, all of the information I have written about did not come from me. I'm not a channeler, I'm not a psychic, I'm the reporter, the investigator, the researcher of lost knowledge. So all the information that I write about in my books comes from all the people that I have regressed and had sessions with, and the information has come out. And it's amazing. The Convoluted Universe are the latest series. I have 4 books in that series now, and I'm working on a 5th one. But those are the ones I say are for people who want their minds bent like pretzels, because they are, well, they're mind-bending information. It's concepts and theories that I'd never heard of before. But they, the ones that I work with, said it's time for the world to know these things. So all the information began coming out as I did the sessions. And as a reporter, I had to put it all together, like putting the pieces of a puzzle together. Sometimes I would get a theory at a session in one part of the world, and then a week later I'd be in another part of the world, and it would expand on the same information I just got, so that I could understand it more and be able to flesh it out. This happens in all of my work. They are always giving me what I need to know. So what we're going to talk about tonight is some of the information that has really hit home to a lot of people. I was really surprised at how it happened. It's the information about the 3 waves of volunteers. Because I began about 10, 15 years ago. See, I see thousands and thousands and thousands of people. And about 10, 15 years ago, I began to get these people coming who were all telling me the same story. Now, it used to be, it was all past life regressions, going back into the past on Earth and reliving past lives. And they can get a lot of information that way by reliving their past lives and finding out how it relates to their life today. But I began to get a different kind of information. Hundreds of people were coming to me with the same story, and it was branching away from the normal past life regressions. They were all saying the same thing. They don't want to be here. They don't like it here. They don't like the violence. They don't like the people, what people do to each other. They all said the same thing: I want to go home. I don't know where home is, but I know it's not here. And I kept hearing this over and over again. Many of these people had even got to the point they wanted to commit suicide to get out because they didn't like it here at all. But of course, suicide is not the answer. in my work, I found that because if you commit suicide, you have to come back and do it all over again with the same people, same circumstances, and it's even harder than it was before. So the suicide is not the way to get out. But, you know, like any scientific experiment, if they repeat it again and again and again, they accept it as valid if they hit the same results each time. So when I began to get the same story through all these different people, none of them knowing what the other ones had said, I didn't know what the other ones had said because it was new to me. But yet they were all saying the same thing. I started paying attention. There's something going on here that we better look at. Now I get hundreds and hundreds of emails from people all over the world who are going through the same situation. They're all saying the same thing. I don't want to be here. I don't like it here. I don't like the violence. I want out. And they're all telling me, well, I feel like I'm the only one in the world that feels like this. But they said, after I read your book, The 3 Waves of Volunteers, and began to hear you talk, I see that I'm not alone. And that means so much to people to realize they aren't the oddball out there. They aren't the only one in the world that has these feelings. We've now found there's hundreds of thousands of these all over the world. And this is the 3 waves that have come to change the earth and to save the earth. And that's what came through in the talks, the sessions that I gave. So that's what I'm going to focus on tonight. Well, the 3 waves of volunteers, when I did so many of them, I began to classify them according to their ages, when they were born. And I began to see that they fall into 3 distinct groups that had all saying the same thing. Well, I'm not going to have a whole lot of time to go into the ETs and the UFOs, their involvement in this, but they are very much involved because they have been involved with us since the beginning of the world. You read my other books, Keepers of the Garden and The Custodians, you will see how they have always been there, taking care of us and watching us. That's why a lot of times they're called the Watchers and the Keepers. They never harm anyone because they're forbidden to ever harm a human being, but they've been watching us since the beginning. But when the earth was created, it had one main directive, and this is the Star Trek directive, because Star Trek is not fiction, it is real. They had a Star Trek directive was the law of non-interference. Once a civilization has begun, you cannot interfere with the development of that civilization. You have to just let it go along the way it is and hope that they're learning something from it and are not going to make the same mistakes over and over and over throughout history. But their job is to watch us, to see what's happening and how things are going. So everything was not really going that well, but we got to the point of nothing they could do about it. They just sit back and watch and say, what are these kids doing now? We were going along until the Second World War. And at the end of the Second World War, when we dropped the atomic bomb, that's when they said, we better get down there and see what these kids are playing with, because they don't know how to handle this kind of power. They can blow up the world. They don't know what they're messing with. See, up until this time, and even to the years later, the people of the world have been caught on the karmic wheel, which means they've been caught in past lives going round and round and around in the same lives over and over again, making the same mistakes lifetime after lifetime, and that's where the karma comes in. They're making all these mistakes and having to come back again and again to repay the karma. most of the people on Earth have been trapped on the karmic wheel. They didn't know how to get off the wheel. This was the main reason that Jesus came to the earth, was to show people how to live, how to get off of the karmic wheel, how to go higher, to go further. And of course, it all deals with love. But the people of his time didn't understand that, and they killed him. But that's what it's always been about, to evolve, to get higher, not to go backwards. The only time that the keepers, the watchers, could interfere with the development of a planet, especially the development of Earth, would be if we were going to destroy the planet. Because if that were to happen, it would have reverberations throughout the whole galaxy. And many, many civilizations and cities on other dimensions would all be affected. So if we got to the point where we're going to blow up the world, we would have to be stopped. There have been many times in the past, in my books, I found at least 3 or 4 civilizations where we were brought to the point we were going to destroy ourselves. And they had to step in and stop it, because it couldn't be allowed to happen. And it was always because of man's greed and the want for power is when it would get to that point. This is what happened with the last one that we know of, which was the Atlantis. They got to the point where they were going to destroy the world. And this is in one of my convoluted books. It tells the story that I've never heard before of how they were doing scientific experiments with crystals, but also they were messing with the grid of the Earth, and it was ready to destroy the Earth, and it would have had reverberations through universes. So that's why that planet had to be, the civilization had to be destroyed at that time. But they said they don't like to have to destroy a civilization. Sometimes it's the only choice. But if they destroy a civilization, it has to begin again from the very beginning, the primitive, the basic, and that takes too long. They always leave some people alive who will continue the civilization, but they have to start over again, and that's what takes so long. And they said we had got to that point where after the atomic bomb was dropped on Hiroshima, at the end of World War II, that we could have destroyed the world. And they couldn't allow that to happen because they said there's no more time to wait now. We are going into a tremendous new thing that most people don't realize. We're going to shift into another dimension. And we have to do it in a way that's compatible. See, it's hard to sit here and look at yourself, believe me. I wish I didn't have to, and talk to myself. Okay. But they had to stop it some way. Anyway, when we dropped the bomb at the end of World War II, they said, we got to get down there because these kids don't know what they're playing with. They said they can't even take care of their own lives. They can't work out their own problems. They don't know how to solve their own karma. They can never handle something as big as atomic power. They will blow up the world. They said whenever we were supposed to have atomic power, it was supposed to be used for good. But I said, well, we do use it for good. We use it for electric power. They said no, because it will never be what it was intended to be, because it will always have the aura of negativity, because it was created as a weapon. So it will never be what they intended for it to be. So they said, what are we going to do? They have the law of non-interference. They can't just come in and say, stop it. If you remember, at the end of World War II, right in there is when they had the UFO flap, when everybody was seeing UFOs everywhere. That was a big, but it all really began right toward the end of World War II, because they were in here trying to watch us and see what was happening. So I keep losing my train of thought when you got to stare at yourself, so I'm not going to look at that screen. Okay. So anyway, they said, what are we going to do? We can't just say stop it, because that is interference. So they went back to the council, and there are councils over everything. There are councils over the world. There are councils over solar systems. There are councils over galaxies, councils over universes that have definite rules and regulations that all of the ETs and the outer space beings must obey and must go with. So they went back to the council and they said, what are we going to do? We can't step in and stop it, because that is against the law of non-interference. So they came up with what I thought was a brilliant plan. They said, we can't interfere from the outside. What if we influence from the inside? And so what they did, they sent out a call to the universe. Earth is in trouble. Who wants to go and help? Because they figured the only ones who could save Earth would be those who were pure. Pure souls who had never accumulated any karma at all. Pure souls who had never been to Earth, who had never been in a physical body. They're the only ones who could save the Earth. And so the call went out to all of these people everywhere, the souls, saying, who wants to come and help Earth? And I've had many sessions when they said they were on the spirit side and they have meetings, who wants to go and help? And one of my clients said, I stupidly raised my hand. Like, what was I thinking of? Because I didn't know what I was getting into. So they decided to come. But, you know, when you come to Earth, which is a whole other lecture about where you go when you die and where you happens, you make your plan and you come back to Earth on what you hope to accomplish. When you come to Earth, you forget. The veil comes down. What is called the Veil of Forgetfulness comes down. You forget your plan. You forget why you're here. You forget you came from God. You forget all about the incredible love that's over there. And you come into this world with the veil of forgetfulness. You forget your contracts that you made with all the other people in your life. I asked them one time, wouldn't it be easier if we knew why we were here? If we knew our contracts with other people? They said, no, it wouldn't be a test if you knew the answers. Because that's all Earth is a school. It's an Earth school. And it's a long school. When you sign on to it, you have to be everything before you're finished. So it's very difficult. Well, that's the ones who are caught on the karmic wheel. Now, the ones who have been coming in, you remember right at the end of World War II was when they had the baby boomer generation. That was when the first volunteers began to come in. I thought it was because after a war, you always have a boom in babies because they're trying to repopulate the ones that were killed in the war. But they said it was these new volunteers coming in because there had to be some changes made. And I found two places that these volunteers have come from. This is all told in the book, 3 Waves of Volunteers. Remember, they have to be pure souls. They have to be souls who have never been caught on the wheel. Many of these have come direct from God. and have never been in any kind of a physical body in any other planet system, any dimension, anywhere. And they volunteered to come and help Earth. Can you imagine what that would be like? A soul so pure that all it knew was love, to volunteer to come into this mess that we call Earth. Because I've been told many, many times that Earth is the most difficult planet in the universe to live on. It's the densest, the heaviest, the hardest planet to live on. And whenever people decide to come here, they're discouraged because they say, you don't know what you're getting into. It's going to be very difficult. But they said, I want to go. I said, all right, we'll be there to help you, but it's not going to be easy. So this is one of the places that I found they came from. They have never been anywhere before, and they are so full of love, and they come into this mess where we have so much violence and negativity that it overwhelms them. They can't take it. The other place they come from is many of them are ETs. They've come from spaceships or from other planets and other dimensions. They don't want to stay here any longer than they have to because their home is in the other planets. But they volunteered to come because Earth was in trouble. And it was like, all right, I'll stay just long enough to help with this, and then I'm going to go back. I'm going to go home. Because that's what so many people say, I want to go home. I don't know where it is, but I just know it's not here. I've had many cases where the person would be on a spaceship when they got the call, and they'll say, I'm going to go and help. And they left their body in suspended animation on board the spaceship, so that when they finish their job here, they will go back to the spaceship and pick up where they left off. This gets a little complicated, and in the convoluted universe, we go into all these different strange theories and strange concepts. But those are two places they've come from. So can you imagine what it's also like to be an ET who has never lived on Earth? They mostly watch and take care of it, and they have many jobs where they go from planet to planet, taking care of the other planets. They have a lot of work that they do out there. And they come here. And this is too confusing. They don't understand it. One thing, the bodies are different. Their bodies have a lot of different abilities where they are. So it's very strange. They don't like the body. They don't understand how it works. So anyway, these are when the volunteers began to come. But because of the veil comes down, the veil of forgetfulness, they cannot remember where they came from. It's very hard on them, very discouraging. The first wave, I believe, began to be born in the baby boomer generation, would have been right after World War II, which would make them 40s, 50s, early 60s, because I didn't think there was any 60s, and then I began getting emails from people who had these feelings that they didn't want to be here. The first wave had it the hardest because they didn't have anything to go by. All they knew was they didn't want to be here. They didn't like it. The second wave had it easier. And I asked them, why was it so hard with the first wave? They said someone had to be the trailblazer. Someone had to be the one to set the stage and make the path for the others to follow. So they were the ones, they were the bravest that started out in the beginning to go to Earth. And I've had so many people who've told me, on my radio show we talk about this too, and they have said they can remember being a little child standing in the kitchen talking to their mother, telling their mother, I want to go home. And the mother is saying, well, you are home. No, this is not home. I want to go home. And they have this great sadness that they don't belong here. As I said, I get hundreds and hundreds of emails, people telling me the same thing. But now they're feeling better because they'll say, I'm not the only one that feels this way. They said, for years, I thought I was the only one in the world that felt this way. And they felt very alone, very shut out, not realizing it's very common now. But this was the first wave, had it the hardest. The second wave are what I call the channelers of energy, the antennas, the observers. Many of them are here just to watch, just to observe, and to gather information about how the world is doing and how the people are developing. And I call them channelers of energy because their energy is so strong. This is the energy that will change the earth, and it is changing the earth, even though they don't think they're doing anything. The energy is so strong that they can walk into a crowded mall of people, and their energy will affect everyone that they come into contact with, and they don't realize this. One thing they have to be careful of is sometimes the other people will suck their energy, because on another level, they realize this is a different energy. It's a higher energy, and most people need energy. So they will tend to suck the energy because they need it. So a lot of the second wave don't like to be around people because they feel that. I always tell them they can put shields up so that they will not be affected by the other waves. But their job is to spread the energy. This energy will save the earth. But here's the paradox. Most of the second wave don't like people. They want to stay away from people. That's why many of them work by themselves, out of their homes. They don't want to work in an office. They don't want to be around other people because they just feel like they don't belong in any of this, so they'd rather be by themselves. Many of the second wave don't want children. If they do marry, if they're lucky, they will find another wave just like them. But they would rather shut themselves away from everyone, which is defeating the purpose because they're supposed to be spreading this energy to the world. But I think many of these have found other ways to do it from the emails that I'm getting. They'll probably have some more questions about these different ways because it's very hard for people in this to realize which one they are, and it's very hard to make a definite cutoff that you're first wave or second wave. Sometimes they overlap. But the second wave are beacons, channelers of energy, observers. A lot of jobs that they will have will be as an observer, a reporter, somebody working for TVs or movies or something, magazine writers. And that way they're observing history, they're observing the world. But they do feel like they don't want to be around people anyway. This is very hard on them. We have found lately that some of these groups are having children. For a long time they didn't, because they were afraid if they had children that this would create karma and we'd be stuck here on Earth. And that's the last thing they want. Because once you're on the karmic wheel, then you have to come back again and again and repay the karma. So they were afraid if they had children, they would have karma. One thing we found that these waves, when they come in with like a sheath or a covering over their soul that keeps them from getting involved. Julia, there's something wrong with the screen. Just a minute, something is going on with my TV here. It just suddenly went dark.
Oh, that's okay, Dolores. We can still hear you.
Is it all right?
That's okay, Dolores. We can still hear
I didn't know what to do with it.
Yeah,
I'm not the technology expert here.
It might have just been your screen.
All of a
That's
sudden,
okay.
my
Yeah,
screen went black, and I wanted to make sure
might
you
just be your
didn't lose
screen
me anyway.
That's okay. You're good to go.
Okay,
That's
I'll
okay. You're good to
continue
go.
then.
Keep going.
So,
Keep going.
technology, that's not my forte anyway. So, when they come in, they have a covering or a sheath over their body to keep them from accumulating karma, because they want to do their job, get out of here. That's why, even though many of them really think about suicide, it's not a good idea. Because anytime you commit suicide, then you're caught on the wheel of karma and have to come back. But one thing we're finding now is, with the third wave, is that a lot of the second wave are beginning to have children. And the children they are having are the third wave. What better parents than to have a waiver for a parent? And that's what we're finding now. This has been in the last few years. We see some more changes that are happening. Okay, there's a lot more things about these, and I know when we get to the questions, you'll probably have more questions you want to ask about the three waves. But the third wave is the children. These are the children that have been coming in. Well, now many of them are teenagers, but they've been coming in. Many people call them the indigo children, which is not a name that I like. The indigo children just means that there is, see, there's these notes too. I'm trying not to watch them. The indigo children just means it's the color of their aura, and that was where they called them the indigo children. I called them the new kids on the block. They're the ones who are the hope of the world. The new children are the gift of the world. They're also coming from the same places. They're pure souls. And they're caught up in something they don't understand here either. So the ones who are parents of these children have to really know how to handle them, because they're very, very special children. I've been to seminars where conferences about the new children where I've had to speak on the panels. And you have to be able to understand these children. The screen froze, but I guess it'll keep going. The reason they are the hope of the world, I've been seeing a lot of TV shows lately where many of these children have already at 9, 10 years old graduated from college. And many of them are inventing things that the other scientists can't even invent, that have to do with the betterment of the world and many more advances. If they're allowed to do this and they're not shut down, they have miraculous abilities. And they had one of these children, one or two, who have formed organizations already, and they aren't even a teenager, 10, 11 years old, graduated from high school, college, and they have already formed their own organizations. And guess what the organizations are? They are to help the children of the world. So they've come in already knowing what they're supposed to do. And when I spoke at these conferences about the new children, they have panels of the children. And the children tell you themselves a lot of what they don't like that's going on. Because they say in school, the teacher will ask them a question, maybe a math question, and they give them the answer. They said, how did you find that answer? They said, I know it. That's not good enough for the teacher. They want them to explain how they got to that answer. These children don't operate that way. Their brains are totally different. These children come in with their DNA is already changed. All of our DNA is being changed too, in order to, we're going to be going to the new earth, which I'm not going to have time to go into that. But this has been going on since this program began, that in the end of World War II, all our DNA is being changed. The children are coming in with the DNA already in place. So we have to catch up with them. But another thing these children said was when they're in school, they repeat the same thing again and again and again. And they said, I got it the first time. Why do you have to keep repeating it? See, they're more advanced, they're higher, more developed than we think they are. It's the teachers, the educators are going to have to catch up. And there was on some news program in the United States, it said they were shocked to find, I don't remember how many it was, 30 million, I believe it was, children have been misdiagnosed with ADHD and put on medication. Said there wasn't a thing wrong with these children. He said the only thing wrong with these children was they're bored, which makes sense. If they're so far ahead of everyone and education is behind, well, sure, they get bored in school, so they act up. It doesn't mean they're overactive. It doesn't mean there's anything wrong with them. You don't need to quiet them down and to squish them. The ones that have been left alone are the ones that are developing into these wonderful entrepreneurs, and they're going all over the world now, helping people. But so what they said to do, if you have a child like this, is to give them challenges. This goes with the teachers too. If they've already finished their work, they're bored, give them something else to do. Maybe single them out to give them a special project, something that just they can do, and have them focus on something different. This keeps the mind active and gives them a challenge to the mind. And I used to say, well, younger children, just give them something to tear apart and put back together again, just to keep the mind going. Because that's all it is they're bored and they want to know why. Why do things operate? Why do we have to do this? Why do we have to do that? This is very hard on the parents. We have a book that our company has published called Star Children, and Children of the Stars, I think it is. And it tells about these children and how to take care of them and how to raise them and how to understand their abilities. We're the ones that have to change. This is the next generation, and it's going to be wonderful. So now I can understand how some of the second wave have decided to be parents to bring in some of these third waves. Okay, so trying to think of some, I've got so much I can talk about this. I'm hoping I'm not skipping too much here. I don't know. Do you want to go to some questions? Because
Did you want to talk about your newest book?
My newest book?
Convoluted Universes? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Because the three waves, see, usually when I'm giving the lecture on the three waves, it goes into the new earth, and I don't want to do that because it's a whole new subject, unless somebody brings it up. I'd rather stick with this, but yeah, I could talk about the new book. It's a different subject altogether, though. If you want me to get into the questions people are asking.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, sure, we can do that.
I keep seeing a
Why don't we
lot
start
flashing,
with
because I know I have forgotten some of the things I wanted to say, and their questions will probably stir up a lot more answers. Okay, but
Okay,
this
yeah,
was,
yeah, there's one question here.
Okay, but let me tell what the new book is if you want me to first.
Okay, sure.
Sure.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. Because this is all from the book, The Three Waves of Volunteers and the New Earth. But yes, I'm still writing books. I have 17 books in print, and I've just finished book 18, and it is different because it's all of my books are accumulation of information. This one is accumulation of information about lost knowledge, because way back in the beginning of Earth, when the ETs were here and they were teaching us, we had fantastic knowledge and we could do anything. And we developed our minds to such a degree, we could levitate stone, we could mold stone, where we made these huge edifices out of that. So we had wonderful abilities. And it is the stories that I've accumulated from many sessions when people had those abilities and the different things that happened down through time that they disappeared. Because a lot of it was always living in the ignorance of the time. Because as time went along, they were treated as witches and working with the devil, and so they were killed. And they had the secret mystery schools that tried to preserve the knowledge, and many of them were killed. Like my books I've written about the Essenes, the secret mystery schools. So this new book is the search for hidden knowledge, hidden sacred knowledge. And it just deals, I'm not telling you how to do it, I'm just talking about what we had that was lost. And a lot of it is coming back now. The abilities are coming back now. Just have to realize the people out there who are rediscovering their abilities don't need to feel like they are strange and something's wrong with them. I hear that so much. They're just getting back what's a natural part of every human being. Something we've always had, and we lost it somewhere along the line. So now you're getting it back. So that book is finished. It should be going to the printers when I get back home. See, we're in England, but my publishing company is in America. And we don't do just my books. We have about 50, 60 other authors from all over the world. And the books are translated into over 20 languages. So we have an office here in England that takes care of our European connections and orders and things. That's where I'm at right now it's in Glastonbury. And from our window, we can see the Tor, if you know what the Tor is, and it's magnificent. We're in a wonderful, peaceful energy here. And it's really good to be in that and away from the chaotic London energy. So that's why we're here. We come over here a couple of times a year to take care of things at the Glastonbury office. Okay, well, we receive hundreds and hundreds of manuscripts to be published. I read every single one of these, and I'm the one that makes the decisions. So I have a lot that I'm doing. Okay, well, why don't we go ahead and go to some of the questions? I know we still have a lot of time, but maybe this will trigger some more questions, more information. Is that okay?
Yes, most definitely. So we have the first question here,
and this is from Kirsten.
And she asks, why haven't your ET books been translated into German yet? As far as I'm concerned, I was told by a well-known medium
that I'm
a star child
after
having
had an encounter with a beam 6 months ago.
After that, I was asked by them to read your book. You really helped me through the hardest time in this incarnation. God bless you. So any word in regards to translation?
Yes, because I just finished a class that I was giving here, and we had it here in Glastonbury, and we had over 70 people, and it was amazing. The whole world was represented in this class. We said there were people here from countries from all over the world, and there were some from Germany and France, and they were wanting to know why weren't my books available. Julia, you want to come in? She can maybe answer some of these questions too. My daughter, she works for us in this.
Okay, so we do have
But,
another question.
well, as far as I know, some of these people are presenting the books to the publishers in Germany and France. And of course, it's up to them whether they're going to take it or not. I don't have anything to say about that. We have over 20 countries all over the world who have bought the rights to publish the books in those languages. But we can't have anything to say about it. The company in that country has to buy the rights, then they have to translate and publish and distribute. They want to know, why aren't they in Germany?
We're working on it.
We're working on it. Okay. Okay, let's go ahead.
Okay, so hopefully, Kirsten, that answers your question.
Okay, so now we have another question from Susan. And Susan asks, can you give us guidance about going into the new dimension? Sometimes it feels like there is much competition among spiritual people. Is being positive and loving the basic premise to deal with the Ascension?
Well, I think it is, because one thing, in order to go, you have to get rid of your old karma. So I think being positive and loving is one of the main things. But we're already in the Ascension. It's already happened. That's what a lot of people don't realize. I'm looking at you in case you want to add something.
Forgiveness.
Okay. They think it's going to be some big bang thing happening here in the future, and all of a sudden, it's all going to happen at once. What they don't realize is it's been gradual, and it's been happening, I think, since about 2003, the Ascension. And a lot of people don't realize it. It is already happening. It's been happening. So you're in the middle of it now. Don't wait for it down the road. Yes, love and being positive is very important. They said the two main things to do if you want to go to the new earth, if you want to ascend, is to forgive. Now, this has to do with karma, because you have to get rid of the old karma. They said you must forgive all those who have harmed you in your life. So what if you had a bad childhood? So what if you had parents that treated you badly? Let it go. It doesn't matter anymore. It was part of your learning. So what if you had a bad marriage? What if you're in a bad marriage now? It doesn't matter. When you come into the life, you make your plan and you create everything that is in your life. You created to learn from. Everything is a lesson. Everything is to be learned from and experienced. Whereas if you say, well, I didn't learn anything, well, then guess what? You got to do it over again with the same people. But they said if you want to go on, you're going to have to forgive. Let it go. It does not matter anymore. Release it and let it go. Then the second thing you're going to have to do, you got to get rid of fear. Fear is the strongest emotion a human has. If we don't understand something, we're afraid of it. And they've told me many times, fear does not exist unless you make it. You do things yourself. Otherwise, fear is not real. It does not exist. They said fear is for entertainment purposes only. That we don't need it. So you've got to let it go. And when you get into a situation, don't go to fear. Love is the only thing that is real. And you must love those people in your life that they have harmed you and that you have harmed. Remember, it always takes two people. So not only them, but you also. You've got to forgive yourself for anything you have done. So these are all important things you're going to have to do if you're going to go on to the Ascension, but we're in the middle of it anyway. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dolores.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dolores.
And now we're going to move on to
the next question.
And this is from Valine.
And this is from Valine.
And he says,
And he says,
"Hi, Dolores.
Hi, Dolores.
Do you have any experience or information
about the White Brotherhood?
All I know is it's an organization. There are many organizations out there who have information, and some of it is valuable. I've never heard anything negative about them. I've heard they're supposed to be a good organization, but there are many, many organizations, many, many wise teachers all over the world too, who are giving the same information. I've not had any contact with it because that's not the ones I work with. But much as I've heard, it's positive. Have you heard anything? Okay. Okay. That's a long one there. Okay.
Great.
That is a long one.
That is a long one.
Okay, so Heidi asks,
I
have recently finished
the New Earth book. Incredible.
However, I have a few
nagging
questions.
questions.
We'll do what we can to get through these.
So we'll do what we can to get through these.
You have some people
who have told you we will go to a new
Yet
Earth.
it's confusing
Because some say it's the same
just a
Earth,
different vibration.
just a different vibration.
Is it similar to the book
or movie
Celestine
Celestine Prophecy?
At the end, when they raise their vibration,
they are invisible to 3D
but can then see light beams.
but can then see light beams.
Let's stick with this question first.
Let's stick with this question first.
I haven't seen that movie, have you?
No, I haven't, but it sounds
Come
like
over here so he can hear you better. You don't have to be seen.
you can hear me just fine.
I haven't seen that movie, but it makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
Yes.
They have told me all of your questions will never be answered because they said, we don't know what's going to happen. This is the first time in the history of a universe that an entire planet is going to shift into another dimension. And I keep seeing it as two Earths. How do you see it?
They're different dimensions.
Yeah, they're definitely different dimensions.
So it can be, I mean, we're on them right now, and we can still see them, even the dimensions are on top of each other.
Yeah.
So I'd say that it's very plausible.
At the end, so that's what they say, we become invisible to the ones that are left behind when it finally happens.
But there's a lot of people that we're invisible to now.
Yeah, how many of you notice that? You seem to be invisible a lot of times. We've noticed that.
I certainly do.
I certainly do.
You go into a store or something and nobody seems to see you, nobody wants to wait on you. And
Yeah.
Julie said sometimes you're driving a car or you feel like you're invisible.
Yeah.
But I think we are fading in and out of the dimensions all the time, and it definitely has to do with vibration. Everyone has their own vibration and frequency. And this is changing now as we're going into the new Earth, because the Earth is changing its vibration and frequency. We have to change our vibration and frequency in order to go with it. So this is a constant thing that's happening to the body. They said it couldn't happen all of a sudden, because if it did, the body would be destroyed. It would be too powerful. So it must happen gradually, that the vibrations are increased and raised. So that's what's happening now, a gradual thing with the vibration. But I think, yeah, turning invisible would make perfect sense, but it's not going to happen all of a sudden. You'll have an idea. See, what you were saying, people are always asking us, will we disappear and they won't see us? But we said, look at your life now. Aren't there people in your life now that are disappearing out of your life? You haven't seen them in a long time. You haven't had any contact with them. They're still there somewhere. That was what I said. Well, we could always contact them if we want to. But they said, yes, but you won't want to. So they're moving out of our life. And Julius always talks about some who were coming into our life that have been gone for a long time. So there's a lot of shifting around as all the roles get into place. Does that make sense? Okay. See, we're still looking for the answers too, because they said nobody has the answers because it's never happened before. They can't answer all the questions.
Okay, well, great. Thank you, Dolores.
Okay, well, great. Thank you, Dolores.
Part number two here. She says, as a mother with young children, I worry that this world will get so hectic for them. What is your advice on keeping our children safe from this chaos that some of your channels discuss?
I think that's what I was discussing a while ago with the third wave. We're moving away from that hectic part, isn't it? What do you think?
It's just about how to, you just talk to them.
The children?
Yeah, you just talk to them. Remember, they're big grown-up souls. They're not baby souls. Just talk to them about what's going on. They're smart. They're very smart.
But look what happened to you when you were growing up. You went through chaotic times, did you, as a child? You went through hectic things. The world was as hectic when you were a child. Over here in England, they went through the Second World War and the bombs dropping and everything. Every child has something hectic that's going on in their life. And this is part of growing up and part of them learning. They're finding their way. I don't think you could protect a child totally, and it wouldn't be good for you if you tried to. They're going to have to live in this world. And if you just shut them away in a room, they never saw anyone, never went out, never was exposed to anything, they wouldn't learn anything. But that was one thing they told me: don't take your children's lessons away from them. They must learn, and they will make mistakes. But I don't think I worry about it, because I know I've got a big family too. And they're going to do what they're going to do. They're going to go out and they're going to make their mistakes. They're going to get caught up in it. You cannot shield the children from everything. Just love them, talk to them, do the best you can. But don't expect to protect them totally, because that's not what life is all about. Life is about lessons and learning. Okay, what's the third one here?
Okay, thank you, Dolores.
Okay, thank you, Dolores. And the third question.
You have mentioned that we will be removed in ships. In one of your books.
In one of your books.
With all your. This is what she's saying. This is what she's saying.
With all of your experience now.
So that's what she's saying.
So that's what she's saying for that.
Yeah,
okay.
People are always saying I said that, and no, I never did, because see, that would be interference. Where I said they are not allowed to interfere in a civilization once it has been started developing. So they're just going to let us do whatever we're going to do. And they are not allowed to come and take us off in ships. Now, in my books, they did it in the past, in the ancient past, whenever civilizations were being destroyed. But I've never said they will come and take us off, because that would be the easy way out. They would not be allowed. That's one of the laws they have to stay with. But even if the ones we stay with the old Earth are those that are involved in negativity and who love the drama. They want to be in that, and they like that kind of experience. But that doesn't mean everyone will. And they will not be able to change their vibration quick enough to go to the new Earth. So they will stay with the old Earth. You think, Dad, you think that's about it on that? Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dolores.
Okay, great. Thank you,
Now I
Dolores.
have a question here from
I
Tanya.
have a question here from Tanya,
And she asks,
I
I know we are here to do
the light work,
and my question is
and
for
my
my
question
own
is for my
educational
own
purpose.
educational purpose.
if I fit the bill
as one or two of the waves,
but then I have such a strong
Lemurian pull,
how can I waver
feel such a connection?
She
Or
says
how can a waver feel?
Or how can a waver feel
she
such a
also
connection?
says imprints.
Imprints.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, Lemurians were the first ones to come, and when they came, they didn't even have physical bodies. They were ethereal bodies, spiritual bodies. They were not in a physical body. They didn't become physical for a long time, I think after they got to Atlantis. And it was a beautiful, wonderful civilization that existed at that time. We've written many books about, our authors for our company have written books about Lemuria. But then when Lemuria went down, many of them went to Atlantis where they formed physical bodies. And you may just be feeling a strong pull to that because it was peaceful and beautiful. That could be part of it, and you could still be a waver being connected with something that was beautiful and perfect. But imprints are different, which is also a possibility. Don't you think if she's feeling a strong pull?
Well, we've been finding that a lot of the waves, we found that they do come up with lives very, very long time ago. It's like they had a long time ago and then they skipped to here.
They went off in other directions.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have to come back now. So it's very possible, especially if you feel you are one of these first or second waves. Okay.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, great, thank you.
Okay, so moving on to the next question.
Moving on to the next question.
Britain,
This is from Britain,
Colorado. And he says,
do you
think there is a connection
between
the three waves
and diagnosed mental disorders like bipolar, ADD, and the like?
I don't think it would be a connection unless it's a misdiagnosis.
Well, the ADD.
We've already talked about the ADD with the third wave, that they're not understanding these children. But mental orders like bipolar, they could be depressed because they don't want to be here.
It's an escape.
Yeah, a form of escape.
What I'm getting is it's a way of handling the energy. It could be something to do with the energies.
But in the cases I've had, I've never had any of them that were bipolar. I've had many that have been diagnosed with depression, and they are, I have to get them off of the antidepressants. But I don't know unless it would be they're just depressed.
Yeah, but you just not had anything specifically come out and say,
because they're
make the correlation, like the third wave with ADHD.
Yeah. Well, a lot of the second wave especially, they're depressed because they don't want to be here. They want to go home. They don't like it, which would be something like depression. Okay, so I think it's a toss-up. Of course, the doctors don't understand this. They don't know anything about this, and they're going to diagnose them any way they want. But the ADD, we've already spoke about that and how that is the children being misdiagnosed because they're different, but they're much better. Okay, let's go on then.
Okay, so moving on to Karen from Austin, Texas. And she says, can you speak to, is it possible to be a waver or pure soul, yet still have multiple past lives? Is the answer related to last chapters in convoluted number 3 with the new types of walking?
I have to remember what's in that book.
The new types of walking.
Because remember, I've written so many books, I can't take it down to just one. But it is possible not to have multiple past lives, but to have imprints of multiple past lives. That was how I first discovered this in the first place. When I wrote the book Keepers of the Garden, was the first time I had ever found a man who has said he had never lived on Earth before. And that was in the beginning when I was doing just past lives. I hadn't got into anything else, way back in the early 80s. And yet, in the book, he goes through several past lives. And then it comes out he had a life on another planet as an energy director. And then it came out that this was his first life on Earth. And I said, well, how can that be when we'd already covered past lives? And that's when they told me about the imprint theory. I was the first one to ever write about the imprint theory. And it really shook my belief system. Because I said, I thought I had it all figured out. I knew how reincarnation worked. I knew how the whole thing did. And now you're upsetting my whole belief system. Because an imprint is like doing research in a library. Because many of these souls, especially the first wavers, couldn't come in here without some kind of experience. It'd be too hard on them. We all have experience from our own past lives that are in our subconscious. And you don't think about that, but you do, and that's what you fall back on all the time. But these people don't have that experience. So when they're coming in, they are taken to the library on the spirit side, and they're allowed to pick out any life they want to be an imprint. So to give them experience, background, something to relate to as being a human. And those past lives are put over their soul like an overlay. And I said, well, then how will I ever know when I'm speaking to someone, if it is an imprint or if it's a real life? They said, you won't, because the imprint will carry all the emotions, all of the experiences of the past life. So it comes across as a past life, even though it's not theirs. Then I said, then does that mean there's no such thing as reincarnation? He said, oh, there has to be, because you must always have the past lives to put into the library that are there for people who want to use them. But I think it's the second wave are the ones that I've found who don't have any.
Or they're just not even showing them because they're not important.
Well, they say that many times. It's not important to think of the past. You dwell in the past, that you need to focus on now and moving forward. So the only possibility could be with the multiple past lives. And this is mostly in the book Keepers of the Garden. It said is related to the last chapters in Convoluted 3. I think I'd have to go back and read them, but what I'm thinking of, it was a different kind of walk-in. Now that's different than one of the waivers. I think it was a walk-in that came in right after the body had died, because it was important to continue on. That's what I'm trying to remember, because I've written too many books to remember all the thousands of cases. But that'd be something totally different with walk-ins, nothing to do with the waves. Okay, I hope all this makes sense to you guys. Okay.
It absolutely makes sense.
Absolutely makes sense.
Everything I do as well.
Everything I do as well too is very much in confirmation with this.
Okay, so we have a question.
Okay, so we have a question here from Kim from Canada.
And she asks, do you think or feel that we can move and evolve through first wave to second wave to third wave? I experience this about my own life as I evolve.
You're coming in as one or the other, because many of them are overlapping. Either came in as first wave and you want to get out of here, or you're coming in as second wave and then you want to get out of here. The third wave, I think, are more apt to hang around because they're the ones that are changing the world. But I've never had anyone who's gone through one to the other.
Very short lives.
It would have to be, because remember, they're all happening in just a few years of each other. And what's the difference? They're so similar. You're not evolving that way. You're evolving by being here to have your energy help the world to evolve. So you're not evolving by skipping from one short life to another short life when they're so similar anyway.
One thing I've noticed though is like as the third wave energy comes in, as each new wave comes in, it causes the evolution of the other wave up to that. So then you have the characteristics of all of the waves by the time they're all coming through. But that's the objective, is to show us the way and to show us how to be like them.
Yeah. But it wouldn't make much sense to evolve through those. Like Julia said, it would be very short lives. And I believe the third wave is the ones that are staying here to help us evolve and change the world.
It's all choice.
Yeah, it is all choice.
They're all here. They're all here to change the energy.
But that's the thing. None of this, it's very complicated to understand it all. Okay, go on then.
Okay, thank you, Dolores.
Thank you, Dolores.
We have a question here from
Asli from Turkey.
And they ask, did the volunteers achieve their purpose, considering the wars in the Middle East and the unfairness of the leaders in power? I am concerned.
They're not finished yet. She said, did they achieve their purpose? They're not finished. They're here doing it now. And this is where it's so important. They are all over the world. We have found them everywhere we go. And their energy is influencing the countries they are in. And the wars and the middle fairness of the leaders and power. Everyone is doing that because it's their energy that is helping. They don't even realize the tremendous energy they are emitting to help the world. You can't say they achieved their purpose because they haven't finished. They're in the middle of it right now. And the world is changing. You may not see it where you are in Turkey, but everywhere we go, we were in China and these other places, they were telling us, we know something is happening. We can feel it. It's there. They said, we know something is going on. So that's what we're getting everywhere we go, everywhere we go to, because it's not the depression. They feel something is going on. And they haven't achieved it yet because they haven't finished.
Well, you look at them and you see people now rioting against the leaders and rioting against the wars. That didn't happen before.
Yeah.
They just followed. And now people are like, no, we don't want this anymore. That's a sign of the new attitudes of people wanting not to be controlled. They want peace. They don't want war. There's still wars out there because that's part of the part. But look at all the breakdown of all the politics and the governments and all the worlds. That's all evidence of this new energy that's here. It's in the midst of it.
Yeah. So you're in the middle of it right now. I keep saying this is the most exciting time in history to be alive. There's so much happening. And I said earlier, psychic abilities are coming back. There's a lot of things you can't even imagine that are happening right now in the world and in your life and in your future. But you have to think positive, like the one said, positive, and think love. And that's the main thing. So don't give up. We are having a great deal of influence. The ones that are in the middle of that, there's a lesson they needed to learn by being in the middle of it. And it's teaching lessons to everyone else, what we don't want to happen. Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dolores.
And this question is from Rod Galtier, one of our presenters today as well.
And Rob asks,
what is the difference between a starseed and a waver?
There's a big difference. Well, maybe it's very similar. I'm trying to think of, I know when people say they're starseeds, everyone is a starseed if you want to say it that way, because we were all created by the ETs, And they're the ones that have been taking care of us all this time, so we're all starseeds. That doesn't mean anyone is special when they come up and say, I'm a starseed. I say, okay, join the club. Because we were all created by the ETs and we've been taken care of all this time. So many of us have been living lives here through many, many generations because, you know, many of us did come from other planets, other dimensions. We're living here now in this lifetime. But just because we're a starseed, that meant we had other lives in other places. A waiver is someone who's come right now to help the world by creating this terrific energy that will affect the world. That's, I see, is the difference. Maybe it's not that clear. It may be very subtle. Some of these questions do have a lot of carryover. Bleed through, I guess you would say.
Okay, Dolores, Neil was able to pull up the cover of your book here,
The Three Waves
The Three Waves of Volunteer and the New Earth. Did you want to share any info in regards to this book?
I already did.
That's the book you're talking about. You've been talking about.
That's the one I've been talking about.
Yeah, so anything else?
Okay.
It's the Three Waves of Volunteers and the New Earth. That's what we've been talking about.
Okay, was there anything else?
That you wanted to conclude
for your presentation?
Well, you want to wrap it up or what? Okay.
I think we answered
all the questions. So.
Is there no more questions?
That's it.
Okay, because to go on into the New Earth stuff would take another lecture, another thing. Well, the main thing is I want people to realize they're not alone out there, because some of these letters we get are very, very depressing because they don't want to be here. They don't like it here. Their families don't understand them. They can't even relate to their families. And they don't even want to live in the same house with their families. And they said they were mistreated all through school because nobody understood them. And I hear this so much over and over again. And this is what I just want to tell people. You are not alone. They said they have tried this before 3 times to help the Earth with bringing in energy. And every time it didn't work. Now they have finally tipped the scales. There are enough people all over the world. They said there's hundreds and thousands of these new souls, the new pure souls, the 3 waivers, hundreds of thousands in them, that we have now tipped the scales and we can save the Earth. But you have to look at it through positive eyes and know it is happening. Okay. Okay, is that enough?
Yes, thank you very much, Dolores. Really, again, just a really great presentation with you today. I really appreciate it. And do you have a website that people can visit?
Which one do you want to give? The Ozark?
Dolores Cannon.
Okay, we have several websites. She said the best one to visit is DoloresCannon.com. And it's all in one word. And the books are on Ozark Mountain, aren't they? They're on both. They're on mine too. They're on DoloresCannon.com. All the books are on that also. But I've written so many books about every possible theoretical thing you can come up with in metaphysics. I've been doing investigations in UFOs and ETs for 27 years. I found the answer to any question anybody could want to know about ETs. And I've also got all of these new strange concepts that keep coming at me. So I'm working on 3 more books now. So I'm not going to be done in a long time. There's a lot of very interesting information that keeps coming because they said we're ready. They want us to grow. They want us to know this information. It's time. Okay.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Dolores, for being part of the Portals to Ascension for the Starseed Summit today. Really appreciate it. And sending you a lot of love and a lot of blessings, and thank you for being here.
Thank you for asking me. And
Thank you. Take care.
thanks for halfway around the world in England. Okay.
Exactly. Must be beautiful.
Okay. And good night, everyone.
Take care, guys.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
listening.